Hello, this is Ms. Diaz and welcome to my second grade classroom. Today I wanted to share with you an activity that I came up with that you can use during your social studies time. The name of my game is The Road to Freedom. It focuses a lot on the Underground Railroad that happened around the time of the American Civil War. And before we get started, I would like to give you a little bit of background of that. So let me read this to you. The Underground Railroad was a term used for a network of people, homes, and hideouts that slaves in the southern United States used to escape to freedom in the northern United States and Canada. The Underground Railroad wasn't really a railroad. It was a name given to the way that people escaped. No one is sure where it originally got its name, but the underground part of the name comes from its secrecy, and the railroad part of the name comes from the way it was used to transport people. Isn't that silly? It's not even a railroad. That's just what people called it. Since the slaves escaped and lived in secrecy, no one is quite sure how many escaped. There are estimates that say over 100,000 slaves escaped over the history of the railroad, including 30,000 that escaped during the peak years before the Civil War. So now that I give you a little bit of background, I would like to show you my game. This is the board of the game. I will explain what every square has in a minute. These are my rules of the game, because you always have to have rules. And these are some fact cards that will be used throughout the game, and I will explain to you as well shortly. So first, let me read you the rules. The Road to Freedom rules. First, each player will get a moving chip, and each group will have one dice. If you don't have any moving chips, it's really not a big deal. I used foam paper, which kids love to touch, and then I just cut out different colored squares, so it really doesn't matter what they use to play the game. Oh, and they will also have only one dice. And for the game, like 3 to 4 people can play the game. I wouldn't give more than 4 because then it's too many people. But you can just print out as many as you need and then divide your class into groups. Okay, second, each group will have one game board and one set of fact cards. This is your game board and your set of fact cards. Each player will take turns to roll the dice and move to indicated number of spaces, this is based on a game that students have played before. So they just roll the dice, depending on where it falls, they begin. And it says begin here, and I'll show you that a little bit closer in a second. Now, once you're on the route, once you begin the game, if a player lands on the "oh no, you've been caught" square, then you need to return to your plantation square and you must start again. If a player lands on the "shh, someone's following you" square, this indicates that the player must hide so she won't be seen, so the player loses a turn. If a player lands on a canoe, they're in luck because they use that canoe to take shortcuts, to where the arrow indicates it. Let me show you an example right here. Let's see. There's a canoe and I take it all the way up there. Okay. Also, each player must stop at each station to rest. Even if the number of spaces rolled moves the player passes that square on the board. So even if the player doesn't land on a station but passes the station, they still have to read the fact card, because this is where they're getting all their information, and this is the goal for them to read as many of these as possible so that the students can retain that information. Each player lands or stops at each station. The player will pick up a fact card and read it to the group to help the students learn more about the Underground Railroad. Okay, so now let me show you the board. So the board has 36 squares. It says begin here, and it even says your plantation right there. So you start this way. As you can see, there's a square that says, oh no, you've been caught. Return to your plantation. As you go, you have trees, and then there's an arrow that indicates that you're going this way now. There's that canoe that says take a shortcut. Use the canoe to travel by water directly to station 2. So that's a cute shortcut there. And then you go this way. There's another station. And then there's someone's following you. You must hide and lose a turn. And then there's the arrow again that leads you this way. So in this game, I included 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 stations. I also included 3. Someone's following you, so I have to lose a turn. And I included the, oh no, you've been caught, return to your plantation. I included 3 of those as well. So when they get to their station, they have to read their fact cards. I'm sorry. So let me just read to you a few fact cards that I have. One of my fact cards says most all of the traveling on the Underground Railroad was done by foot. Some parts of the journey were over treacherous land and mountains. This is an interesting card. It gets the students thinking, wow, they were traveling by foot. That must have been hard. This one says, Frederick Douglass, a former slave, became famous for his leadership in the Underground Railroad in New York. Harriet Tubman herself escaped to freedom using the Underground Railroad in the late 1840s before helping others. This one says, slaves would often hide in cupboards or under floorboards to remain safe at each station. This one says, sometimes conductors would pretend to be slaves so that they could sneak onto plantations to guide slaves on the Underground Railroad. The Underground Railroad was most active during the years before the Civil War. Slaves would travel mostly at night to keep from being seen and caught. So as you can see, these are a lot of interesting facts that students may have heard from me when we were reading about it, but this is difficult for the students to retain. And this is a really great game that very engaging. They love to play this game, and they have so many facts that they can learn and just keep going over, because that's all this game is. You just keep going over those facts. But they think they're playing a game, which I'm sorry, they are playing a game, but they're more engaged because it's a competition to see who wins first. Also, maybe to extend this activity, you can ask the students to write 10 facts in their social studies journals, and they can get the facts that they read and number them and write them down. That will also help to retain that information. So I hope you enjoyed my activity. I will upload all these files up to my page so that you can just download and print it out. Like I said, this is a great activity for the students to just gain some knowledge and retain the knowledge over or social studies, or really any topic. Well, guys, thank you so much. Thank you for viewing me.